I'll start.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to
Morning.
welcome Dr. Varun Ashokan,
Good morning, ma'am.
Education, Assistant Professor
Good
of
morning,
Language
ma'am.
Education at RI Bhubaneswar.
Good
His
morning,
area of
ma'am.
specialization is candidates are requested to keep their mics mute, please. Uh, Dr. Varun is an assistant professor of language education, RI Bhubaneswar, and his area of specialization is in language pedagogy. Dr. Ashokan has also been an active contributor to this course, and we are delighted to have him with us today. And his expertise and experience in language education will certainly add great value to our learning. We welcome you, sir. A very warm welcome to you, and we look forward to an insightful session with you. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. So, good morning to everyone. And kindly keep your mics mute so that it will not disturb the recording. And but today we will start with so some key points. We will talk about what is language acquisition, what is language learning, and stages of language development. Then some theories like Stephen Cousins' language theory, then Noam Chomsky's theory, then Skinner's theory, then some cognitive theory. We will see, and also we will also look into Indian Sign Language and how it is differ from the other sign language, and particularly in relate to the children with especially particularly children with speech and hearing impairment. So I will open my slides. Probably, if in case you have any doubt and clarification in between, then you can ask. As I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So, once we understand the way language learn, perhaps, this will help to understand method that needs to be taken to teach well. First, we should understand what is, language acquisition and what is language learning. As a teacher, if we know this difference, then we will be able to understand our children in the classroom. That language acquisition, see, if we see these theories, there are various theories says child learn the language, child acquire the language, child acquire the language through imitation. It also, as you might be read in the material, through how Aristotle defines that child imitates the language. But this it has been agreed by uh, various theories and the people who propose these theories. Uh, this, to some extent, yes, it is true that child acquire the language. So before uh, these two important terms, language acquisition and learning, is very important. We know language it is no way when you see, if you look into yourself during the childhood, you don't speak the same language which you were talking in the childhood. And there are different, probably in the previous chapters and the previous sessions units, you might be seeing that different forms of language. That is very true, that because language develops, language evolves over the period, over the age. And also, if people who have a very good reading habit, and then you see that language is completely different from people who don't have an opportunity to learn. Language also differs. That's how, when we say in the first language, or the child's immediate environment, then child have an acquisition, learning acquisition. So particularly, we say that regional mother tongue occurred naturally from the community environment, or that where the child comes through. Second language is, it is a kind of a linking language within the state or within the nation. So as India is, we all know that in India, for uh, every language changes in every 4 miles as water changes in every miles. So this is very true because the accent is different, the dialect is different, so language changes. uh, uh, that is, maybe within, for example, I speak Tamil, so we have a every mile some new vocabulary, some the semantics of the language may change. So these all some difference within the country, whereas in countries like monolingual countries like Russian, or like Russia, US, and UK, New Zealand also, they have indigenous language, Australia. So most of the world, I feel these days are bilingual because there is a lot of immigration happens. The country started learning the other languages. But as a country like India, we are very diverse, particularly linguistically very diverse in nature. Here in India, we learned, third language like English as a third language, as a foreign language, and this is learned through very formal in setup. Like in our policy NAP 2020 also emphasized that the primary education should, up to grade 5 must prioritize the child's home language. We are also using the term R1, R2, R3, which is slightly different from L1 and L2 and L3. But we will today's session we majorly focus on language acquisition and learning, and some theories also we will look into it. So there are in the acquisition and learning, as you all know, there is a lot of difference between acquisition and learning. Acquisition is a very natural and subconscious process. For that, you need not to have any learning environment. Child or any, it is not necessarily to be a child, but for example, you were somewhere born in Kashmir, and you were not just born in Kashmir. Maybe you spend your childhood or adulthood in Kashmir, and the moment you have a job, or you need to do a business in Tamil Nadu, you go there, and naturally it may take some time, but a year or two, but naturally you acquire the language where you no one taught, but you slowly look into the society, look into the community, you acquire the language. uh, Probably in the acquisition period you don't know what is the grammar and what is syntax, what is semantics, but so learning is a very deliberate and conscious process. uh, we teach, particularly learning mostly happens within the restricted environment in the classroom. We deliberately and become more conscious in teaching the language. You understand what is adverb, you understand what is subject, you understand what is verb, what is object. So it is a very very systematically in happens like whereas the acquisition happens in the family environment, in the community interaction. uh, Acquisition is yields an implicit feel for the language because there are a lot of connection happens in in the while acquiring the language. Here you it is mostly a knowledge based. You gather information, you learn to read, write, and try to use. Whereas in acquisition is it is so much affective domain, emotions involved. For it can be a child who is acquiring the language and learning the language. It can be also most, it can be an adult who acquires the language. So there are a lot of difference in the acquisition of a child acquiring a language, acquisition of an adult acquiring a language. uh, Child acquire with slow time, or with it takes more time because it has a process, it has a stages. But both child and adult, both of them having in a silent phase for a couple of months, they don't try to speak. But whereas adult, for example, I am basically born and brought up in Tamil Nadu. So most of my college days are I acquire and learn the language. But whereas I got a job when I was first time visited Delhi, and sometime I was there in Ajmer, and now I am in Odisha. So I slightly learned some Hindi, but my Hindi is, I acquired, not learned, sorry. I acquired the Hindi because I never have been an exposure to learn Hindi language, but slightly in my community around me, particularly when I was in Ajmer, so I was, I have left with no option because almost 70 to 80 percentage of people speak, they know a little bit of English, but most of the time they use Hindi or Rajasthani language. Similarly, now here I am in Odisha. How my acquisition happens. Few words I learned: asantu, basantu, kauchi, jauchi. So this is what my acquisition as of now. Balovachi. So this makes like uh, this is an acquisition. This is not. No one is sitting here and teaching me. This is what this vocabulary means. Sometimes they may help me this, I may ask what is this word meaning, so sometimes they may help, this is the meaning for this word. So this is a natural process. But there is a lot of difference the way I acquire a language and the way the child acquire a language. Child imitate, but whereas I also imitate, an adult also imitate, but I imitate, I understand the meaning and try to imitate. But child doesn't try to imitate, try to understand the try to doesn't have any knowledge about this particular language, but child naturally acquire, imitate the language. As in the age factor, as we are seeing here, child effortless, child doesn't have much, doesn't put much effort in acquiring the language. It is a critical period. So we will also learn Stephen Corson's critical period hypothesis, how child acquire a language with a little, if you put little emphasis, then child try to acquire more. Uh, Here in the for a learning environment, as an age, it requires sustained cognitive effort, often in adulthood. As you all see the curriculum or even curriculum, you see the progression of language learning. Maybe in the for example, in the foundational stage, you we majorly focus on phonic sounds, then phonology, then slowly we go to morphology, then we syntax and semantics, then you go for a discourse and pragmatic use of a language. But yes, it requires a cognitive effort. Then cognitive effort. You have to sit and learn the grammar rules. Uh, i- Particularly when you learn a second language, the grammar rule may be different than the language of mother tongue. For example, in German, sometimes the verb comes at the first also, whereas in English, verbs comes next to the subject. So a lot of syntax difference happens between L1 and L2. But it requires a lot of an effort to learn, understand the language, and also vocabulary. And because if you don't have an environment, it is very difficult to put use of the language which you learn. Particularly, I am speaking about L2. Uh, this primary goal for this acquisition is put the language at the use driven by child learn through the immediate social environment. Then for a learning, the primary goal for learn a language is to be in academic, professional, and to clear some exams. Some of them have some ambition. So where you need to learn the language, it can be L1, it can be L2, or it can be L3, any language. So for example, here the primary goal, for example, it's not only for the child, but for the adults. If someone wants to do a business, or someone wants to travel and visit, or someone wants to immigrate, then they should know the local language. In that way, uh, the primary goal for them is to learn, to understand the society, to understand the community. Because if, for example, if someone wants to run a business, someone wants to run a business in different part of the country where they don't know the language, then they should acquire the language. There is no restriction for them to learn, to mastery over the language, but it is only to communicate and to have a social interaction with with the community around them. Sometimes language also, acquired and learned to have an social purpose. Maybe cognitive, academic component also involved. But sometimes, say for example, if you people immigrate to different countries like Germany, France, most of the languages are in that particular country's language. But they may use common language like English, but they may ask that, for example, if let us take it Germany. If someone moves to German, they may use English to in the work environment or to learning environment. But to have a social environment, to have a social life, to build a community, to build to have a community, they should learn a German language also. In that way, that here they may acquire a language in to the extended versions, they may also learn the language. Then see the timeline of language acquisition. If we see, I want to show some video. Let's see whether it's possible or not. So, but if at all we see the timeline of language, particularly it can be a mother tongue or it can be L1 or L1, which means the language child which have an immediate environment to acquire the language. Uh, we all know child acquire a language, first language from the mother or the home environment itself. But it also not only just in a home environment, it has in a community around also plays in a vital role in acquiring a language. 0 to 6 months, we see, cooing language or goggling or child makes sounds. Here I have written vowel sounds, but child usually makes sounds during this month, and we call it as a cooing. We call it. It can be also pre-linguistic because the child does just try to make sound. It doesn't have any phonemes or morphemes like that. Particularly, it doesn't have any phonemes. Child try to breathe. I'll try to show this video if it is. Mm. Uh,
Really?
Here, sometimes the child, responds to the language, or responds to the parents, or responds wherever parents try to speak to the child try to make noise, but without any stimulus also this cooing will happen. Then we call it as a second stage, we call a babbling stage, where it happens between 6 to 12 months. Usually try to product try sorry try child try to produce some sounds like pa, ba, ma, and but child try to articulate some sound. And if I may also have some video, I'll try to show. Here in this video, you can see when the child, when the mother or the caregiver try to speak something, then the child try to respond to the caregiver or the mother. So this is we call a babbling stage, and next we are having a single word stage where a child try to make one particular single word completely, like papa, mama, like that. So I'll just show some examples. don't know what it is, it does look kind of funny. It just looks like a regular kind of thing. Like now it's okay. It's ooh, for Vincent. Vincent. Mosquito bites. Watch. And then later, Vince, we can watch this one like you're watching. Vincent's imitating mommy, putting on the medicine. So you can see here, child say that something the child is saying, so where parents can make meaning for that. But here usually it happens. Some child is giving some example. I also have one more first word. Andre, Papa. See here. Papa. See here, the child is saying Papa. So child is imitating whatever Papa says. Not whatever Papa says. The child imitating the word Papa. Next, we have a telegraphic stage where child try to speak. The child try to interact in one or two words. Here I may have some example. Let's see. Yeah.
What are you eating? Chocolate. Chocolate? Yeah. You like chocolate? What do you call? Grandma. It's grandma? I eat shit. Who is it? Oh, me.
So here you can see the child is imitating, but also we are also having a two-word search. I think I forgot to two-word stage. Then we go for beyond.
Hey, Jane. You say hi, mommy. Good girl. We say.
So this explains that the stages of language development. I'm trying to rewind. First, we have a cooing. The child just try to make some sounds. Then we have a babbling, like child try to make proper sounds, and a single word the child try to utter, like papa, mama, some single sound, then two-word sound. Then we have a like a linguistic adult where the child speaks fluently, but maybe not completely fluently, but try to maybe the child try to put the verb in the beginning, then the child use past tense instead of present continuous tense, or the child may use future tense instead of present continuous tense. So the grammar of the child is yet to form, but the child able to completely speak. These there are a lot of language theories which speaks about language learning as well as language acquisition. There are some theory exclusively speaks about acquisition. There are some theories exclusively speak about language learning. Uh, Here we have Skinner's language theory, where Skinner speaks language is learned from the habit formation. Language is learned through imitation. Language is learned through stimulus and response, where when punishment and reward, where the positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. So it's completely speaks about language formation. Then we have a nativist theory, where for this is one of the interesting theory proposed by Noam Chomsky. We all know Noam Chomsky and his Noam Chomsky's theory. He says about language acquisition device, just like animals, just like any human body part, uh, just like any human body part, there is a language acquisition device in our brain, and which get stimulated and developed developed during just like how our body parts develops. This language acquisition also getting developed, particularly when you acquire and learn a language. It also it plays in a role when you learn a foreign language. He says grammar is very universal in nature. Every language have a subject, every language have a verb, and every language has an object. uh, child child, he also speaks about how child, try to imitate language and how it gets developed. And this theory also speaks about how this particularly language acquisition device, uh, how child is, acquiring the language, and how it helps to, this device can helps for the improvement of language. And also there is a cognitive theory, which is an important theory for language learning. Cognitive theory speaks about, like we have a Piaget's theory, then we have a Piaget's theory. Particularly, he speaks about how the concept has been developed before the language developed. So, for example, this Piaget cognitive theory is particularly, we focus on Piaget and how he speaks. We all know he speaks about sensory motor development, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Sensory motor, it is child sense and their motor development happen from birth to 2 years. And child infants or learn through physical actions, like their body gestures or will develop. And then their child learn the object permanence, and particularly through symbols and gestures. Then there is a pre-operational stage where between 2 and 7, children use their mental symbols, pretend play, and rapid language through logic, and it still basis on an intuitive in nature. Child may not understand the concept completely because still that operational stage is happening. Then the third stage is concrete operational stage. It's between 7 and 11. The thinking process becomes, because the language comes first, then the thought process. But it is language and thought process may happen parallelly, but may not have a relevance. For example, child making some sound. It is child have a meaning for that sound, but that meaning may not be correct in the socially or socially. But child also learn that meaning socially, then child modify. So this will particularly this Stephen Coulson also explains in the monitor. I will try to come to the Stephen's theory little elaborately. Then we have a formal operational stage where child's abstract thinking develops. Child have a mastery over the language. Child speaks with the meaning, understanding and meaning. Then they're all listening, speaking, reading, and writing happens. Uh, this is proposed by cognitive theory. You know, Chom's behaviorist. We all know behaviorist theory also. Next, I'll try to. Yeah, Stephen Coulson. He is famous for his input hypothesis. But Stephen Coulson is an American linguist, and he has proposed an important theory. It is called interaction theory. It is majorly focuses on how child interact. He also speaks about language acquisition and language learning, and he speaks about language. So in this 5 hypotheses, is first one is acquisition and learning, where he speaks about subconscious acquisition, picking up the language very naturally. It is completely separate from the conscious learning. Again, I repeat, he speaks about the subconscious acquisition. Child picks up the language very naturally, which is completely different than from which differ from conscious learning. Because, for example, whatever maybe it is simple. The child, you are telling something to the child, to someone adult. The child just listening and picking up the language, but it is, and child maybe understood the meaning, but which is completely differed from the conscious learning. Conscious learning is something we study about the rule of the language. Uh, Acquisition drives fluency, whereas the learning as in the beginning we saw, as learning happens, particularly in a very systematic form, particularly on the grammar aspect. Then he speaks about input hypothesis. Here he says that the progress of a language is will be understood when the message is given. For example, he says input hypothesis I plus 1. Child have already some language in their child have already some language, and you add some more information, then the language get developed. It is called you child natural language. Then you give some additional language to the child acquire and learn the language also. It is slightly above the comfortable zone of the child. For example, that's how we speaks about the input rich environment, and why we need in the classroom, why we need charts, why we need prints. For example, if you see in the schools, there are alphabets, there are pictures, there are story cards or placed across the classroom, because child have some language, and you are adding some more information to the child's language. Then we call it as an input hypothesis. Then he proposed natural order hypothesis. Natural order hypothesis is particularly on the grammar aspect. The grammatical structure are acquired in a predictable way. It means that probably the child, for you might be observe the children. They may use present tense, past tense. Sometimes they get confused of using present tense and past tense. Then they go for a natural. No one taught them. Well, maybe there is some influence. Maybe you should. People may say that, or the caregiver may say, instead of present tense, you may use past tense. You should use past tense. But but it isn't a natural. Even if you don't say, also after some age, you see the child. The child correct themselves. We call it. Stephen Corson call it as a natural order hypothesis, where child look into the grammar, and they try to change the try to change, because naturally the child is correcting the grammar, naturally the child is putting the language in order. Then there is a monitor hypothesis, where the child, maybe they use a wrong language, then they monitor within themselves. There is no one to monitor the child, but the child themselves they monitor, or the learner themselves they monitor. So he speaks about the consciously learning of the grammar. We as an editor, sometimes, preposition, articles, we try to do mistake, then we correct by ourselves. It can be acquisition, or it can be learning also. Then he speaks about affective filter hypothesis, like where we will also speak about how this emotional variables plays an important role in acquiring as well as learning the language, which is also slightly related to the theory proposed by B.F. Skinner, behaviorist theory, not just only Skinner, behaviorist theory, because child need a strong motivation factor to acquire and learn a language. They may take a lot of time to acquire or learn a language, but it needs a strong motivation. Factors, for example, if you scold the child, this is wrong, that is wrong, then the child or the learner may not learn the language, because they have always a fear. In the classroom also, you see, if child gets a positive motivation plays a role. And also Stephen Corson also speaks about how the personality makes motivation as a factor. He is speaking about intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Child whoever having a extensive, for example, if the child is very extrovert in nature, they may try to use the language with more number of people. For example, if some vocabulary they learn today, and they try to use it in the classroom environment, they try to use it in the community, they try to use it in the home environment. This is as a trait, as a trait, plays an important role to acquire the language. See, the motivation should come from intrinsic, not extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation helps to have a deeper knowledge and meaning, and it has a long term impact of using the language. Extrinsic motivation, it is comes through the society, comes through the community, comes through the teacher, but it may not have a long term impact. Factors like, as I was talking about this personality traits, a child who are extrovert in nature, or the learner who are extrovert in the nature, they try to use, but they may not be, but they may not be more strong in. I mean, strong in the sense they may not have an advanced language version, but person, like a person who is very introvert in nature, they may have a deeper or a stronger academic language rather. Again, these all the theories, I'm not proposing it, but these all the theories, but how extroversion and mastery, extroversion use of the language is high, whereas in introversion language, I mean, they may not use, but the natural learning meaning, they may be very comprehensive, because they have a self learning also happens in introvert people who are introvert in nature. As I was talking about affective filter hypothesis, which is really important, Stephen Curson also supports the language acquisition device. How zero anxiety helps to have an fluency and mastery over the language. Affect if you have a strong factors motivation, you have a low anxiety. If you have a low motivation, you have a high anxiety. High anxiety makes the child low self-esteem, which naturally affect the language acquisition device. For example, here you can see this affective filter hypothesis, which is comprehensible input. When there is a less comprehensible input, it means less print-rich environment, less motivation, then low motivation, then there is no supporting factor, then it affects the child. Child will have a low self-esteem, and the child will have a high anxiety, which naturally affect the language acquisition device. Again, as in the slide, you can see at the bottom that low anxiety is very mandatory. Child should, there is always anxiety. Whether you acquire a language or you learn a language, there is always some kind of anxiety. So Stephen Coulson says there is anxiety, but the low anxiety is mandatory. High anxiety blocks the input and stops the child. Maybe child mug up and clear the exam, but they may not have a natural understanding towards the language. That's how it's in our policy document, we strongly focus the child read without understanding. Child may speak, use the language, and they may forget. So it is completely a kind of a rote learning happens. Sometimes Stephen Coulson, he even says on the acquisition, not just on the learning. He speaks about even acquisition. Child may not express completely whatever they want. Not whatever, express completely themselves. It can be this listening, speaking, reading, and writing are directly linked in a language acquisition and learning also. So child needs a high motivation environment to acquire the language. Allow the child to do mistake. Allow the child. As I forgot to say, there is a silent. Yes, I was talking about the silent period also. Maybe first 18 months. Particularly on the learning of a foreign language. Stephen Coulson gives a wonderful example. He had a neighbor from Japan, and and he was teaching English to the Japanese child, and he was trying initially, through direct method, then through bilingual method. Then he tried all those things for 18 months. The child even doesn't utter a single word. Then Stephen Coulson gave up, and he relocated to, or no, the Japanese family relocated to some other city. All of a sudden, one day, the child called Stephen Coulson and started speaking in English. So Stephen Cousins says that don't give up the input. You give up always the input. There is, naturally there is acquisition happens, and there may be a time when this affective domain will trigger. Then the child started speaking the other language. As we all, as mostly we are educators, we all know that learning happens through three domains: physical, motor. Psychomotor domain, then cognitive domain, then affective motor domain. So these are the major domain, and here these are the five input hypothesis Stephen Curson was talking about, particularly language learning and language acquisition. What are the key factors for second language acquisition is IQ plays in a cognition, or you can call it as in a cognition, include linguistical, logical, cultural integration of navigating a new context. When we're talking about intelligence, we also know that Howard Gardner has proposed a theory called multiple intelligence skills. Multiple intelligence. So he proposed 7 to 8 factors of multiple intelligence. In that, linguistic intelligence also one component, and child's attitude, having a positive attitude is very important, because it builds a curiosity with outperform the external and social pressure. For example, I still remember one of my friend. He comes from a very rural setup where there is no one talk no one talks in English, and like, even I, maybe when I was he was my friend of he was my friend when I was doing my graduation, and he speaks very good English and very good uh, English, and that is in very less environment. In fact, in our class, most of us, we don't speak much English, because when you come after 12th and graduation, the we know the language. I mean, we know the language in the terms of to read and write, but communication is not very good. But he speaks very good English. So then when we learned the language, then we understood that he has always in a positive look to learn the language, to use the language. Is less worried about the mistake what he is going to do, but majorly around that time I was worried about what mistake I do, whether the grammar which I use is correct or not. So a little worry was there, but it is again the attitude of the learner, attitude of the child, or any adult also. So positive, one should have a positive outlook to use the language. It can be any social environment. Then age is an one, because in early child is an optimal for a native pronunciation. Adolescent age is to learn grammar very fast in nature. Then aptitude, innate readiness to encompass the phonetic coding and grammatical sensitivity. Here, language learning also plays in a role, because child we don't know whether the learner is ready or not. But in particularly in but early years, it is, as we saw early years, it is very good for a pronunciation and acquisition of the language. But later year we have to decode the language, because a word have a different meaning. Then we will focus more on the child. When they learn the language, they may focus more on grammatical structure of the language. And then memory plays an important role, because it relies on semantic. Because uh, uh, when the child acquiring the vocabulary, if they don't have the vocabulary, then again they may face some problem, pronunciation, then phonological rephrase the sound, and it has a different meaning. Sometimes it has a one meaning, sometimes it has a different meaning. Sometimes the language which the child learn have a different concept when the child learn other language, because there may be L1 and L2. There are linguists have also proposed some language aphasia. When the child learn a multiple language, learn and use a multiple language, they may try to either forget the particular vocabulary and shift to the other language. Then the code switching and code shifting is happen. Sometimes they get confused of using maybe they, for example, uh, uh, I was, I'm giving this lecture. Probably sometime I forgot some vocabulary and try to use it from my mother tongue. Then there is because of language aphasia. Because I may know more. It's like a child knows more than two or three language. They may develop a language aphasia, not completely forgetting the completely forgetting the language, but forgetting some kind of vocabulary around that. Then sign language in inclusive classroom. So in we all know this Indian sign. We all know this mostly the sign language has been used by children with speech and hearing impairment. So in every this natural language, Indian Sign Language is not a manual representation of one like Hindi or English. It is a distinct visual gestural language with its own complex grammar, syntax, and spatial rule. It is not easy. It is easy for us, or if we need a certain time to put and learn the language. It is very difficult to acquire this language. This language needs to be learned properly, and it has its own it has its own syntax. Acquisition. So children with hearing loss are exposed to Indian sign languages from birth, acquired through exact same developmental milestone as they spoke in uh, L1 acquisition. L1 acquisition. So, uh, in NAP 2020 also, it has been mandated that there should be there is a national standardization of Indian Sign Language and integration of inclusive classroom material across all the state and educational institutions. So there should be a pedagogical there should be some pedagogical shift should be there. The school must provide the interpreters and multimodal environment that validates the Indian Sign Language as an equal and rich language environment. The school should it's every school, it is a it is comes through the policy that every school should have an interpreter or a different multimodal environment where child can use this language, not only the child with hearing impairment, but the hearing impairment, but the classroom children may also use this language. Teachers may use the sign language, but also sometimes this sign language can, if you are having a friend of children, if you are having friend who have a hearing loss, then if they're using a sign language, if you spend some more time with them and try to understand them, this will help them to acquire the sign language. It is possible, it is not impossible. So this is for children with a hearing impairment. Well, I also want to show that Stephen Cousins how this uh, impact of affective domain on language learning. So let's see if it is there. And because I really like the Stephen Cousins theory.
There is no volume.
Okay, is it not audible?
No, sir,
No,
it
sir.
is not
No,
present.
sir,
No,
it's
it's
not
not
audible.
audible.
I don't know why. Is it audible now?
I guess no, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir. It is not audible.
Okay, so All right then, because
Sir,
it's
maybe you can
I will
share this link in the group so
in
that
the yeah,
participants
that
can watch
others
it.
can watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
later you can watch it because uh, this theory I really liked this theory because he is supporting the theory of language acquisition, language learning, then how this affective domain impacts the language acquisition also. At the end, I'm trying to conclude these are the pedagogical theories which we have seen, in which we are using this in classroom environment and the classroom practices. What Stephen Corson recommend is use rich visual aid storytelling in the classroom, which allows and respect the natural and silent period when the child, that first few months when the child don't use the language, don't worry and don't give up. You keep on using the print rich environment. That will help that will help the child to acquire the language continuously without any disturbance. Second, as he recommends that affective filter, cultivate the safe and low anxiety space. Never force, never force public speaking before the child linguistically ready, because sometimes we say, oh, you go and talk, it is fine and all, but he recommends that you build up low anxiety space, build positive environment so that the child ready and use the language. Then cognitive and social interaction, he also speaks about encourage peer-to-peer multilingual dialogues to low social anxiety and build integrative motivation. It is very important because before that, when there is a child wants to use with the peer, with before teacher. See, there may be exceptionally brilliant children or gifted children where they come and use the language with the teachers, but at any stage, for example, we try to speak with the friends within a more social in manner than we come and speak in a stage or perform somewhere, because uh, did which when the peer-to-peer interaction helps builds the motivation, gives confidence, and there is no anxiety here. As NAP 2020 also respect and leverage child's mother tongue has been given in a importance. Here have used L1, L2, L3, but NAP 2020 also recommend till class 5 mother tongue is very important. Then neurodiversity and Indian Sign Language also speaks about the mainstream inclusivity of utilizing multimodal teaching aids, visual, auditory, spatial, and gestural, which is which helps the child to acquire the language, learn the language, and concept formation also will have very strong concept formation will happen. So this all from my side. I feel if something I missed, then I can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. I mean, it was indeed an insightful session. We can now move on to QA session. There are certain questions from the participants. I'll share my screen, and you can answer the questions, sir. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just a second, sir. Yes, sir. So the first question is from Rajni Dua. The question is English is learnt in India, not acquired. How can efficiency be achieved effortlessly without pushing the child or the learner?
Yeah, so I was talking about Stephen Colson's theory, not only in the terms of learn acquisition, but also in terms of learning. So, I was talking about this I+1 print-rich environment. Uh, you need a different. See, you need a pedagogy which helps the child to learn. when we the child may have a they may not show immediately whatever they expect as a no we were talking about elbows learning outcomes and all. In that context, we need a innovative pedagogy. We need allow the child to learn the language. We need a space to space. We need a space to use the language in the classroom environment. So as we all know, no, there are different methods of language teaching. Probably you will come in pedagogy of language learning. In that we have a direct method, we have a bilingual method, we have a grammar translation method. So, for example, by direct method is used in the classroom. In a simple language where you speak to the child and ask the child to speak in simple language in the classroom itself. So this is what we have to teach in the classroom.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Next question is by Deepika. If language acquisition develops through meaningful exposure and interaction, how can a formal classroom environment be designed to facilitate acquisition alongside conscious language learning?
Okay. So if language acquisition develops through meaningful exposure and interaction, how can a formal class see in the when we speak about formal classroom environment, uh, it is not that the form. I have some sound disturbance.
Let me
Okay.
check.
Okay. See in yeah. So
So it's
yeah.
clear? I mean,
Yeah, all right, no problem. Because no, there is some disturbance. Okay, fine. See, in the sense, a classroom environment also it gives in a meaningful. So this is the question, right? How
yes, sir.
how to facilitate acquisition alongside a conscious language learning. Uh, See, acquisition. See, there is a difference. We should understand acquisition happens very natural environment without much effort. Language learning happen is not in a restricted environment. There, the child learns grammar rule and so on. Grammar rule, like sometimes vocabulary, and sometimes there is a learning happens, and parallelly we use the language also in the classroom. Uh, how we the classroom should be designed in such a way where the child should be very free from low anxiety environment. Child should not have an high high anxiety environment. The child should be feel free, comfortable, where even if they have a no use if they use a wrong grammar or a wrong vocabulary also we should accept, and it child should naturally modify within the classroom environment. I understand there are a lot of challenges may happen in the classroom, but slow and steady, you win the race. So it is slow, steady, and you allow the child to use the language, and you uh, one day the child will be mastery over the language, which I was talking about Stephen Cousins experience. You see that at the video, it is a wonderful video. At the end, he explains how the child, the Japanese speaking child, how the child acquired the language, because though the child environment is completely English, but the child is not using the language. Here we are talking about how we can use the learning environment to be more more no more natural way. It is only that teachers should forget that the student is there. So it should be, whoever the mentor, whoever the learner, they should allow the child to make, to speak, to read and to write in the classroom. That's how we should create in a simple way. If I will put, we create a low stress and low anxiety environment so the child acquire and learn the language naturally in the classroom itself. And
All right.
also I think, and also I request you all to watch. There is a There is a web series on Mind Your Language. This is a 10 minutes or ten minutes. It have only of 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Maybe it have, I think 20 to 30 episodes. It's a wonderful web series, Mind Your Language. It is available in YouTube itself.
All right, sir. Now the next question is by Dwepayan. To what extent is the ability to acquire language driven by innate biological structures versus environmental social interaction?
To what extent is the ability to acquire a language driven by innate biological structure versus environmental social? Okay. Uh, I don't know. Innate biological structure. It means I'm trying to understand the question. Innate biological structure. It means that naturally acquiring the language within the uh, home environment,
Yes,
or
sir. Yes, sir.
okay. So naturally home and uh, see, it has a limited version, but social. It's again Vygotsky's theory. I didn't touch, but I think I could have touched Vygotsky theory of zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development is very, very important to acquire or learn a language, because whatever you acquire a language, you need a place to use it. Can you acquire a language in a home environment? You acquire a language in a community environment. You acquire a language even in the school. You learn a language in a school also. You need a society to use that language. So to what extent ability to occur? So biological structure, the home environment is very limited, but it is a very safe environment. So we need a strong environment, social interaction, and so that the concept and everything will get developed. So it is, if you study Vygotsky's social interaction theory, then that may be will helpful to understand a clear picture about how child come out from the home environment and go and interact through the social society.
Okay, sir. Uh, Now the next question is by Barbara Smith. Why do children acquire language naturally while adults often struggle with learning a second language? And if it is easy for a child to learn language quicker at a younger age, then why is new language introduced in middle and higher education?
Yeah. So see, there are various aspects. So early years, the child acquire fast. You put three language, four language, they acquire very fast. And see, for acquire very fast, but there are different questions involved here. One, it is a very interesting question, and
Yes.
I also have a very limited answer to share. Uh, but yeah, so it's a question why we put that language in the middle and higher stage, because there are also research says that the learning from mother tongue is the child learn the concept very easily and faster in mother tongue than the other languages. So that's how we don't emphasize much of other languages in the early years. But also there are research which says that the child acquire and learn a language to more than three languages. There are a lot of research, more than three language from the birth onwards they acquire the language. For example, there are Indian children in US, in UK, they learn their mother tongue, they learn their the language which they are at use, and also they learn other foreign language. It is I don't know what to say, but it is why I don't know why. But there are studies, parallelly both studies. You have a early years also you can mastery on two to three language equally, and there are studies says that mother tongue learning through mother tongue child understand the concept faster. There are two research are there, but I don't know why.
Okay, so moving ahead, the another question is by Lisa Rani. Does it mean that acquired language changes its form with the passage of time and becomes a learned language?
Yeah. Is it so?
And
You want to ask how this, because that's the way we don't use the same language what we in our early childhood we have acquired a language, and now we are so you should also learn this big and clap models. Big and clap model language for basic interpersonal skills and language for academic and social proficiency. This two, it looks at two different models in a different purpose. But once you have a academic competency, you no more use the same language in the society also. Your language change. There are a lot of differences between person who never have a school life and never have a formal education. Particularly, I'm talking about literacy. A person who have a person who has a literacy, you see the language or not same.
Yes. Moving ahead, question by Dr. Sheetal. Does the language we speak influence the way we perceive reality? This is often explored through the linguistic reality hypothesis.
I am. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
No worries, sir, no worries. Uh, so the next question is, how can a teacher of English grow an intrinsic motivation among the students? As there is not much motivation, we struggle to get them on.
I think that's how we taught. We are teaching them literature, because when we, for example, if you are teaching a poem like "Road Not Taken," "Daffodils," child actually get into interesting motivation, because the poem has so much a deep concept. It is learned. When I say learned, there are a lot of novels and stories. uh, just to begin with, I see, if you teach R.K. Narayan stories or Ruskin Bonds, child naturally get read the novels. So you need not to help them. If they know little bit of language also, they try to read. No? So it is literature will help.
Right, right. Now, adding on to this question, there was another question by Rashmi Dubey. Can grammar be language learning or language acquisition?
It is grammar is a language learning. If you are learning a syntax, then it's a learning, because you are teaching them this is a verb, this is subject, this is object.
All right, so then moving on to the last question for today by Pravisha. Many children today grow up in families speaking two or more language at home. When they come to school, some of them become very quiet or hesitant because the school language is different. Sometimes, as teachers, we may not know the language the child understands and may find it difficult to communicate or translate. How do children learn to differentiate between different languages, and how can teachers support them when there is a language barrier?
Yeah, this is particularly indigenous languages have been not, see, for example, in states like Jharkhand, Odisha has a more indigenous language. Jharkhand has a more indigenous language. West Bengal has a more indigenous language. Sometimes teacher also doesn't know the language of the child. It's this situation, I don't know where so we are talking about multilingualism also, but this situation and all, it is really become a bit, because you don't know the language of the child, then it is you don't know the child. So it is there should be a family should in that, I understand there should be a strong bond between I maybe use this way, but the teacher, before understanding the child, the teacher should understand what the culture the child comes from, what background the child from comes from. There should be an interaction between the child and the parents. Then the child, once you have a strong bond between the child and parent, the child feel teacher as one among the family. So the child comes and naturally try to speak to the child. It is a very big question, lot of debates. The answer, I can't say that just answer, but because you know the answer, what how to build it. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for all your answers. Now, I would like to call Miss Barbara Smith. Like on a random basis, we call one candidate to give a vote of thanks and the entire
I
feedback.
think someone raised the hand. Preeti Sharma, madam, has raised hand.
Yeah, Miss Preeti, do you have any question?
Hello, good morning.
Actually, I wanted to reflect upon one of the question, but right now, actually, all questions are answered now. So I think it is irrelevant now.
Okay, okay. I believe
Ma'am,
you have
I
got it answers. Yeah,
ma'am,
Rashmita.
huh. Ma'am, actually, there was a question by Barbara, ma'am, that why at a middle age the next other two languages are introduced instead of having it in pre-primary or primary classes. I would like to
Hmm.
answer because we had a workshop recently. The teacher, I mean, the resource person who had come, he had shared his idea that if you have only one language in from class 1 to 5, they have better comprehension. So the concepts are more clear. They have stronger foundational literacy as well as improved cognitive development. That will help them to have an abstract thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. So with this higher confidence, they can acquire more two languages in the middle age with more clarity. That is why I think NEP has also introduced only one language for, I mean, better is mother language, so that personal clarity is there. So that is what the resource person has advised and had also shared with us. So I would like to share this, and personally I would like to thank sir, because the room from where actually he is presenting today reminds me way back to 21 years back where I was studying, and I can see the same room, same door. And thank you very much sir for this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So again, ma'am, I don't want to have an argument, but as I already told the mother tongue, but also, if you look, a lot of research also done parallelly on a child acquiring two language. Yes, mother tongue helps, but also the question was when child can have a mastery of two language parallelly, why it is, the question was raised that, like, why it needs to be introduced in the middle stage. uh, as you rightly, mother tongue, there are research. No, as we should not come into a conclusion. Policy recommends. It's policy recommends. No, I am not against of anything here. It is possible parallelly. Two language can be acquired. There are a lot of research they have done.
Right.
Yes, sir. But improve cognitive development
Oh,
improves
uh,
with the mother tongue, more with the mother tongue.
sir, good
Sure.
afternoon. With your kind permission,
Yeah.
uh, I would like to ask one
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
small
yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Kindly allow me to ask. Sir, I would like to
Yes.
ask that while teaching, which area should we focus more, like grammar or text? Because language is learned basically from the text first.
Yes, yes, ma'am. It is see, the
So, sir,
policy recommends and the curriculum framework recommends language is learned through text, not from separate grammar. But we have a different, we have a different methods, and all the methods are either time tested or it's through some empirical experiments. Like grammar translation is there, direct method is there. So these all, time tested methods also there. So it is possible. See, I learned through direct method and grammar translation method. It's we all in similar age. Most of the time where Skinner theories has been used. Later we were talking about the cognitive theories late in 2005 when the National Curriculum Framework 2005 came. Then from then onwards, it is shifted to shifted to this John Dewey's theory. But current policy and curriculum framework recommends to follow, uh, learn the grammar, teach the grammar through the text, not separately.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for all your answers. Yeah, now I would like to call Miss Barbara Smith to give the overall feedback and vote of thanks for this session. Miss Barbara, are you here in the class?
Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you are. Can you please turn on your camera?
Just give me a second.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to thank Sir on behalf of all the online attendees. We would like to express our sincere appreciation for taking this session. Your time, effort, and dedication to conducting this class are truly valued, sir. Thank you for making this session interesting and informative for everyone. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Uh, Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of everyone, on behalf of Ganga sir and the entire team and all the participants who have joined the session, I would like to thank you once again for taking this session and sharing your insightful thoughts along with us. It was indeed a very informative and engaging session. Thank you once again, sir, and we are looking forward to have more such
Ma'am, just I
sessions.
would like to add one point here. So
Yeah,
the
sure.
PPTs what were like PPTs were excellent. It was self-explanatory, and the way sir has explained with very small like good examples, which like he tried to connect with the mother tongue influence and all. It was really good learning for all of us.
The
Thank you
videos
so
were
much,
very
sir.
good, ma'am.
Indeed,
The
indeed.
videos were very good.
Yes, exactly, exactly, and that
The
was
videos were
actually
very good. It
real
was
learning.
quite
Yeah,
a bit of
yeah.
learning. It was
We,
very nice, sir.
yeah, we were able to connect with actually reality. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Sir,
thank you, thank you.
if you could please share the
Thank you,
link,
sir.
sir,
I
of the
will
video
share
you.
I will share the link. I will share the link.
Very
Yes,
short
sir.
videos, but very meaningful.
Absolutely, sir.
Please watch Stephen Corson. It will give everything.